Things are not looking up for our favorite Cyclops. Once it was revealed in the mid-season finale that he was bit during his outing with Siddiq, it seems his fate was sealed. Or was it? What if there was a way for the One-Eyed Wonder to somehow survive and continue on with The Walking Dead? Some theories have come out about how Carl might actually survive this tragedy. In this video, we'll take a look at some of our favorites. AMC ended Season 8 with the closing sequence of Rick coming back to Alexandria and finding most of the residents alive and well, hidden in the sewers beneath the town. He's relieved when he reaches the end and finds Carl is also there safe, but this doesn't last long as a very worn down Carl shows him a bite on his abdomen. After the mid-season ended, reports from actor Chandler Riggs came out also confirming Carl's story is ending. It was also released that this is not supposed to happen and was a last-minute change by showrunner Scott Gimple. This change quickly made Scott one of the most hated men in America. Among all this news also came some theories about how Carl might actually make it through this. The first theory is in regards to the helicopter Rick saw in the woods. Proposed by one Twitter user, @thearchitectxii, it suggests the helicopter is actually a military vehicle belonging to a functional unit that might possess a cure of some sorts. The United States military is huge, and to think that all the hundreds and hundreds of military installations across the US, Hawaii, and Alaska all fell during the apocalypse is pretty far-fetched. While it is believable that the virus would spread too fast to control, it's also believable that some installations would be able to lock down and self-contain themselves. Some of these installations might have research departments, and given how far the CDC was in their research back in Season 1, if any of these bases with a research facility managed to survive, a cure for a minor infection such as a single non-traumatizing bite would be believable. In the comics, after all-out war and the following story arc ends, the next antagonist seems to be some sort of military organization trying to reclaim civilization, so it might be possible that AMC is bringing them in ahead of the comics. While there is military groups scattered throughout the series, there's been no evidence of any bases surviving in the show, and no military personnel have been seen in several seasons. The next theory is probably the most popular one. Carl is simply immune. With most every disease out there in fictional work, there's always a small part of the population that seems to have a natural immunity. In Planet of the Apes, about 10% of the population was immune to the simian flu. Maze Runner had the flare, where 1% called Munies were immune. The Crippen virus had a 90% mortality rate in I Am Legend, but there was 1% of the population that was immune.
Less a 1% immunity. It left 12 million healthy people like you, me, and Ethan.
So it's not out of the realm of plausibility for The Walking Dead to have a certain amount of the population immune, and possibly Carl is one of those. So far in the show and the comics though, there has been no mention of anyone immune. The last theory we'll look at is that the Walker bite was from a human, not a zombie.
Yo, don't joke about zombies. That shit there, that's real.
If Carl has any chance of surviving, this theory would be his best bet. In the comics, Rick's group wins all-out war. Years have passed and the communities have rebuilt from the ashes. However, this peace doesn't last long, as they find themselves at war once again with a group of survivors known as the Whisperers. They are humans who wear the skins of walkers so they'll be able to move amongst the herds of zombies unharmed. Survivors can't spot them as they look and act exactly like zombies do. The only difference being is that they're very organized, and when they get close to their target, they tend to pull out knives and stab their victims. Carl was out with Siddiq and they come across 3 walkers eating a deer. While disposing of them, several others seem to appear out of nowhere. A possible scenario is Siddiq was trespassing into Whisperer territory when Carl found him. A Whisperer scout spotted them and rounded up a couple walkers to attack. During the attack, he bit Carl as to keep his zombie persona alive and was intending to stab him while close, but got shot in the head before dealing the killing blow. I watched the video frame by frame, hoping to find anything that directly supported this, but came up empty-handed. No stitches in the zombie, no knives, nothing like that. I did see a few things that stood out. First, during the fighting with Carl, his face seems to be very loose. If you look closely while he's snapping down, his teeth clench down, but the skin on his chin seems to fall down a bit as if it's not connected. This is very subtle though, and could just be the face skin coming off due to decay. Next, Carl is supposedly bit by the walker he pushes off himself initially. When a second walker lands on top of him, the first goes underneath and bites Carl in the stomach during the struggle. If this was a real zombie, why wouldn't he have done more damage? It's been shown over and over that these things can take big chunks out with a single bite, so to only have teeth marks that barely puncture the skin seems a little weak for a walker. Lastly, walkers have no concept of weapons. This is shown by them walking into spears or not trying to duck when shot. However, this zombie on top of Carl seems to go for his gun after Carl shoots the first one, or at least tries to push it away. All of this is just circumstantial and could just easily be myself saying what I want to believe. The last piece of evidence is the vague scenes of Old Man Rick shown back during episode 1. Rick is shown in his home, waking up but much older and with a cane. During these sequences, Carl is clearly seen passing by and saying hello. These scenes appear to be post All Out War and at the start of the next story arc, meaning Carl survived all of this. The only explanation is either these sequences were indeed just a dream, Rick's vision of a world after Negan, or Carl was intended to survive and Scott Gimple decided to kill him off after these scenes were shot. The former I don't believe to be the case. Why would you make yourself a cripple in your dream? The latter would just be a shitty editing job on the part of AMC and not taking Carl out of that shot once he was written off the show. For any of these to be true though, that would have to mean that Chandler Riggs and Scott Gimple were lying during their interviews. Though all these theories have some validity, the best theory of how Carl might survive comes outside of the show. Scott Gimple's decision to make such a drastic change from the comics has sparked a huge backlash amongst AMC's fanbase. There have been dozens of petitions on Change.org and some other sites asking for him to be fired. Many posts and comments from loyal fans saying they're done with the show now. Though AMC might have allowed Scott's change to go in with the hopes of creating another cliffhanger to boost its ratings when it returns in February, the backlash received from it might force them to reconsider this move and find a way to keep Carl in the show. Even though it's a drama series for entertainment, their main goal is still to make AMC money, and if killing off Carl could jeopardize the show's future, an exec can easily step in and force the show writers to rescind this decision. So what is your favorite theory? Do you agree with any of these and think Carl has a chance of surviving, or are you at peace with him getting a knife in the skull next season? If you want to give me your theory or just tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment below.
That's some plausible shit right there. You should block him.
Until next time, keep on walking.